What's up everyone, MeetJP2 here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing the team that I use for climbing. Now, in these battles, there's not as much spice because it is a climbing team, but I do have to use this team from time to time just to make sure my elo stays up in the 2000s, because it's just not as fun to run spicy Pokemon in like the 1600s, especially in the Master League. Like, I did come up against like a 3700 combat power Groudon in the Master League one time when my elo was too low. That's when I decided I needed to climb. So that does indicate that I need to use this team. So this is the team that I use for climbing, because all of these Pokemon are super bulky. And I get that Steelix is not very spicy, but my level 50 Altaria is definitely still kind of spicy. And I've talked about it before. I don't use level 50 Altaria because I think it's spicy. I use it because I genuinely think it's good. Because it's the bulky Dragon Flying type. And like that's very rare because like Shadow Dragonite and regular Dragonite are still pretty glassy. And there's basically very few other Dragon Flying types. So opponents are usually not ready for a Dragon Flying type this bulky. Now, I also have Ludicolo because this team, I originally ran Altaria, Steelix, and Obstagoon, and that team did very well. The only problem is that it was ABA weak to Fairy, and it was ABB weak to Counter, or just fighting types in general, and Tapu Fini just runs through this team. Well, ran through that team, that is. Now, with Ludicolo instead, this team is able to do better in a Tapu Fini, but Tapu Fini still does not bode well for this team. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Let's get into the battles. Alright, so into the first battle, we lead Altaria into Virizion, best possible lead. Opponent sends in Ampharos. I send in Steelix, and they just concede the match. So, off to a good start, I guess, but let's see what the next battle has, I guess. In the next battle, we lead Altaria into Giratina, and the opponent sends in another Ampharos. I don't know why everyone was running Ampharos, but Steelix certainly does enjoy seeing it, so I'm not really complaining. Now, I'm going to throw one Dragon Tail in the move just to make sure I'm throwing on good timing, and Steelix will go for Psychic Fangs, and Psychic Fangs doesn't do too much, but that's not the point. The defense debuff is what we care about here, and it does mean that I should be able to throw one more Psychic Fangs and get a full farm down. Now, this Psychic Fangs gets them into range where one Dragon Tail gets the KO, and that does mean that they don't get another move. They then send in Golisopod, and Golisopod isn't ideal for Altaria. Sorry, not Altaria, sorry. It's not good for Ludicolo, but I will send it in because it should be able to bait back out the Giratina, and that's what I care about. Now, I will shield because I really want them to switch out, and Altaria does not need shields into Golisopod. Now, the opponent then switches out into the Giratina, and they've fallen into my trap, as now they can go for a move. A move will KO Ludicolo here because I didn't get a debuff from the Scald. But Steelix, even with the very low HP that it has, can easily take care of Giratina. Now the opponent, I do believe they're trying to just commit both shields to the Golisopod, because it does get pretty strong when you give it two shields. But the problem with that is that Altaria really does not need shields to just fully farm down Golisopod. So I can actually shield this move because that Dragon Claw will do the most damage. But the opponent can send in the Golisopod, and even if they have Aerial Ace, it's not going to do much. They don't even have Aerial Ace, Liquidation doesn't get the debuff, and the opponent just concedes the match. Into the next battle, we lead Altaria into another Giratina, and Giratina is, if they actually stay in, it's kind of a matchup where if I land a Moonblast, I just straight up win, but if I go for back-to-back Sky Attacks and one of them gets shielded, I can leave with a shield advantage and Steelix can get a nice farm down. So either way is fine, but the opponent actually no shields the first Sky Attack. Now the thing is, another Sky Attack will get a KO with the added Dragon Breaths, so I can pretty easily force a shield if the opponent wants to keep switch. And if they do shield, then Steelix gets a pretty nice farm down, and those two Dragon Tails plus the shield advantage lets Steelix take on almost anything. I think the one thing is like Cobalion is that it can't take on. The opponent sends in Typhlosion though, and I'm probably going to switch out into Ludicolo after this. I want to get a Psychic Fang, so like the one bubble that does register is going to do a lot more. The opponent is going for a Blast Burn, They know that I'm shielding that because Blast Burn will just destroy anything, basically. The opponent sends in Ampharos, and I throw on poor timing. I thought they got in the 1-turn switch in, so I thought they were a turn behind, so I could throw after 3 bubbles, because they'd be 1 off the next Volt Switch. But they just get a full Volt Switch for free, and that is unfortunate, but the thing about Ludicolo is that even with mine having suboptimal IVs, it's pretty bulky, so it lives the move, but I don't even get the new mechanic. But the thing is, that's fine, actually. I don't really care. It's actually probably better because Steelix can get a nice farm down. That Psychic Fangs gets a debuff, and the opponent just concedes the match. We see Swampert on the lead at the next battle. This is another one of the dominant leads Altaria picks up, and Altaria just crushes Swampert. Now the opponent makes a good catch on a Cresselia, and, well, that is unfortunate. I am just looking to make my own catch on my Steelix after farming up basically as much energy as I can. I switch out 1 turn before, though, because that does mean that Steelix will get a Dragon Tail through, and that does mean that I'll make it to a crunch before they are able to make it to another move. However, I don't want to throw on bad timing. And the opponent is running Future Sight, so looks like they're just hard-walled by Steelix. They don't even have Grass Knot. And Crunch will do a ton of damage, and we even get the defense drop. That does mean that it's going to be an easier time for Steelix farming down, but if the switch clock comes up, they might choose to switch out. I decide just to go for the Psychic Fangs, because I don't want to risk them being able to save the Cresselia and potentially letting the match come down to timer. The opponent sends in Swampert. I do lose CMP, and I don't shield here because I don't think they'd shield the Psychic Fangs in return. Now, I'm going to go for a switch into Ludicolo after my Steelix faints, and Ludicolo just hard walls Swampert. They go for an Earthquake. Ludicolo really does not care, and now they're going to be able to go for a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to do basically nothing, and now this Scald will pick up the knockout, and the opponent actually does shield. They then send in Giratina, and I am looking for a Scald debuff because both Altaria and Giratina are bulky, so getting a debuff would be nice, but no debuff for us. It's not too big of a deal, though, so not mad about it. Altaria still can make it to 2 moves here. I just decided to go for the Sky Attack, because I do feel like they're going to shield. They do. And the thing is, the Dragon Breath damage will get them into another Sky Attack range, and Altaria is bulky. It lives that. Now, I'm going to end up losing CMP. That was a bit of a mistake on my end, but it's not going to kill the game. But it was actually delayed CMP, and they are able to make a catch on a Swampert, and that might win them this game. And so, it looks like we just got robbed by the game because the opponent's able to make a catch, and that might have actually just lost us this game. I'm going to be able to go for a Scald, but if the opponent can get a farm down, they'll leave with a Dragon Claw. The timer comes up, and I need 1 Dragon Breath to KO, but they get the new mechanic. So everything goes right for them and everything goes wrong for me because the game is kind of broken, so we do lose that game because of it. We lead Altaria into Bellable in the next battle, and this is a pretty good lead just because Bellable can go for a Zap Cannon, but Zap Cannon won't KO. His opponent's just going straight Discharge, though, and Discharge does pretty little. The opponent then sends in Walrein, and the thing about Walrein is that it has access to Earthquake, so it can hit Steelix are super effective. Altaria obviously gets kind of wrecked by it, and Ludicolo can't KO with 1 Energy Ball, so I have to bait it with a Scald first. We get the shield and we get the debuff, and that's fine. I did shield the first move because it would do the most damage if I got a debuff, and it entices them to shield the Scald bait, but now I can just go straight Energy Ball. This Energy Ball does actually grab shield. The opponent can go for an Icicle Spear here, and they do get to another Icicle Spear, I believe 2 turns before I make another move. The opponent tries to catch on to Bellable. Now, Steelix is a hard wall to Bellable. Like, even if the Bellable is running Muddy Water, which I highly doubt, they would not be able to do much because Muddy Water is a pretty terrible move. They actually are running Zap Cannon, though, so Steelix just hard wall to the Bellable. So I could probably go for a full Dragon Tail farm down here, but it would probably take a lot of time. The switch clock might even come up. So I'm going to farm up as much as possible and probably just go for a Crunch. I am debuffed, so a Psychic Fangs would maybe not KO. The opponent then sends in Walrein. Now, if this is an Earthquake, Steelix does live it because I have a better IV Steelix now, and Ludicolo has an Energy Ball. So, no more Walrein. Now, the opponent might send in the Bellable, so I can get a farm down, but the thing is, Steelix will still just hard wall that energy anyways. And I'm just going to bring in Steelix, and even if they have a Zap Cannon here, Steelix is completely fine. Discharge does not take us out. We can just debuff the absolute heck out of whatever they bring in, but it's actually Skeledirge. Now, I would prefer to be running Earthquake here because I'm at 100 energy, so I could debuff them and throw the Earthquake, but 2 Crunches will do just fine, and Altaria has some energy, so we're able to make it to a Sky Attack, and that shows one of the things I don't like about Incinerate. If I switch out, I can go for 3 Dragon Breaths while they're still stuck in the Incinerate, so I can just throw a move. So it's basically able to snipe with them knowing exactly what's happening. As you can see, I got a 4-1 there, and that 1 loss was kind of because the game broke for me, but whatever. Next battle, we lead Altaria into Salazzle. Very nice spice by the opponent. And the thing is, with the Incinerate buff and Salazzle's extremely fast energy generation and access to Poison Fang, Salazzle can commit 1 shield and just power through Altaria here, but it will cost them a shield, and Salazzle will get pretty low, so I can basically just get farm on Ludicolo if they choose to do this. So they'll be able to go for Poison Fang, but I live 2 more Incinerates, and I'll be able to make it to a Sky Attack. Actually, wait, no, I don't live 2 Incinerates. I thought I did there. It looked like I would have, but I guess I don't. Doesn't matter, because the opponent threw an Incinerate, Ludicolo got the farm down. The opponent then sends in a Shadow Shiny Venusaur, so nice flex, and I will be shielding this Frenzy Plant, because Frenzy Plant will do a lot of damage. I am worried that because they're staying in, they're probably just trying to strip shields away from the Steelix because they have something in the back that's going to be able to do better into Steelix once shields are down, but Frenzy Plant still hits so hard that I am going to be committing shields. The opponent sends in a Shadow Swampert, and so it looks like my read was right, and I'll be able to go for Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs will get a debuff, and I will lose Charge Attack priority here, but the thing about my better Steelix is that it actually lives this. It is CMP though, and CMP does mean that I'll throw the Psychic Fangs, but I can save the Steelix. My only lose con is if they're running Sludge Wave, because it would one-shot Ludicolo. Ludicolo gets one-shot, Steelix gets farmed down, and we do lose the game because the opponent was running Sludge Wave, but I can't be mad because they were running Sludge Wave, so props to them, I guess. We lead Altaria into Alolan Muck in the next battle, and this Muck's running Poison Jab. Now, Altaria does live any 1 move here, so I'm pretty sure they'd go for an Acid Spray. Like, Alolan Mucks almost always do that. The opponent then switches into Wall Rain, but this works fine. I'm not mad at all, because now I can just go straight Energy Ball. And I do live at least 2 Icicle Spears, so I can make it to Energy Balls to threaten them, and they won't be able to threaten me until I'm a bit lower. I do have to be wary that they could commit both shields and try to Powder Snow farm down, but they're just fine with letting it go. Now, the opponent probably will send in the Alolan Muck, but Steelix just destroys Alolan Muck, so I'm not really going to be mad if they just get a full farm down, because there's not much they can do. I get the Scald, and that was definitely not how the game was supposed to go if that was CMP, but whatever. I don't think it was CMP, I think I just saw the screen a bit wrong, but either way it doesn't matter, as we get a debuff. They can go for an Acid Spray, but I can just switch on to Altaria basically immediately afterwards, but I'll be able to go for a Psychic Fangs and whatever they send in. And it's a Shadow Swampert. That means the Dragon Breaths will be doing 1 more damage, and as I've shown with the Breakpoints and Bulk Points video, go check it out if you haven't, that 1 extra Dragon Breath damage, because of that defense debuff that I got, is just going to mean that this Swampert's gone. Hydro Cannon's just going to get shielded, as Altaria has 2 shields to hide behind, and while it normally doesn't need them, I am perfectly comfortable committing both of them, farming them down. The opponent loses with both shields. We lead Altaria into Talonflame in the next battle, and the thing about Talonflames is that they, for some reason, always go for the Flame Charge first. Like, I've noticed that. I don't think this opponent does, though, and they do just go straight Fly. Now, Fly is a very powerful move, but Altaria is a very bulky Pokemon, so I am able to tank 1, and I should be able to tank this one as well. It will get me into, I believe, 1 Incinerate range, which is not good, because it does mean that they'll be able to make it to another Fly after another Incinerate, and they do live the 2 bubbles on like 1 HP, which is annoying, but we do get a farm down after committing shield. The opponent then sends in Melmetal. Now this looks pretty bad, but up energy and with the ability to debuff, Ludicolo does pretty well here. Now the opponent is going to end up throwing a move here, but we already got a Scald debuff. Rock Slide's not going to be doing much of anything. Now the opponent goes for another Rock Slide. Rock Slide will do some nice damage, and I will be able to make it to another Scald. Now this Scald will be able to do some nice damage, but the opponent does shield, and I am perfectly willing to commit a shield here. I wasn't sure if this would KO, and I wanted to be safe, so I will actually go for a move. The opponent switches out into Machamp. Now, Machamp is going to have to eat the Scald, and it gets debuffed, and because of that debuff, there's really not much of anything that Steelix is going to be able to not tank, unless they're running close combat, which they deserve the win if they're running that, but it doesn't look like they are. They let the Psychic Fangs go through, because I'm assuming they think the game's over, and they'd be right. If we're able to make it to a Psychic Fangs will come pretty close to taking out the Melmetal. One more Dragon Tail takes him out, we take the game. Lead Altaria into Giratina in the next battle, and normally I did used to run the Obstagoon in the back, so when I was running that team, I'd actually switch out because I had 2 better matchups in the back, and it would try to bait out a counter user. But now this is kind of an ABC style team, so I can't really do that anymore, because Giratina just crushes Ludicolo, but Altaria does fine into Giratina. Now, the opponent is going to be able to go for a move, and I'm going to catch it. I'm going to save Altaria on like 1 HP. The opponent sends in Ultra League Kyogre, so and I guess they get to take this matchup because Kyogre is going to be able to take out Steelix here. I do tank a Surf though, and Crunch will hit for some pretty good damage. Now the opponent does get the defense debuffed, and now I can just bring in Ludicolo, and I should be able to just get a full farm down. If they're running Blizzard, still doesn't take us out. If they're running Thunder, still doesn't take us out. They go for a Surf, definitely doesn't take us out. And now we get like a 6 bubble advantage, and I don't think there's much of anything that likes to see that. The opponent makes an amazing catch on a Giratina, but it's not going to save them because they have 1 Pokemon. I can just commit to debuffing here. Now I could go for Energy Ball to debuff their defense, but that's a much lower chance, and the Skull debuffs are safer. Now I switch into Altaria, and I am trying to farm up to a Moonblast, but the opponent just decides to throw. And I do believe Altaria actually does win CMP against Cresselia, which is kind of funny, but I didn't choose a throw because I wanted to make it to a Moonblast, because that can also fish for a debuff. Now the Dragon Breaths are nice, and Ludicolo gets another Skull debuff, and now I am still going to be shielding these moves, because these ones will still be doing the most damage. Now if I get another Skull debuff, I'll be able to easily tank another Moonblast, but I've gotten 2 Skull debuffs, I'm fine at this point. Skull does get the debuff though, and now the opponent is going to be going for a move. Moonblast, triple debuffed. Look at how little damage that does. And now, one more Scald will easily end up taking out this Cresselia, and we are able to take that game. Into the next battle, we lead Altaria into Pangoro. Now, Pangoro, it is good because it's a Dragon Flying type into a Fighting type, so this does seem like a good matchup. The opponent's actually running Rock Slide, and I'm going to be honest, I did not even know Pangoro learned that, so I was caught pretty off guard. The opponent shields a Sky Attack, and I'm going to try and catch. Now I do catch, but the thing is, they are actually going for a Night Slash bait. They then send in a Virizion, and Steelix does not like to see Virizion, but this is why I'm glad I did switch out, because Altaria can handle the Virizion, and I can go for Psychic Fangs here. They shouldn't shield this, they don't, and now they're going to be able to go for a move, but I'm actually going to shield here. They've seen I have Psychic Fangs, they've seen it hits super effective, they've seen their defense is debuffed, they know this one will do more, so I won't even be surprised if they shield. Switch clocks up, I send in Altaria. The opponent is not able to make it to another move, I make it to the Sky Attack, double defense debuff, easily taking out the Virizion, and the opponent has Ampharos in the back. So this is looking like a pretty straightforward game here. Now the opponent goes for a Brutal Swing, takes out the Altaria, and I'm going to send in Ludicolo. I could send in Steelix, and they would never farm down, but I do want to just send in Ludicolo. Now the opponent is going to go for a Trailblaze, boosting up their attack. They then send in Pangoro, and it does win Charge Attack priority. I'm still nervous that a Rock Slide would do too much damage, so I do Shield. At this point, I undercharge, and it's the absolute perfect undercharge, as I'm able to get 1 extra bubble. That means I outpace the Ampharos, and that undercharge might not have mattered because Steelix could still probably handle Ampharos, but it's a nice flex, and we're able to take that game. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's video. You guys have seen that this team is pretty strong, because I did choose to just show 2 straight sets, instead of selecting some battles, because I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but usually my battles are not just straight sets. I do have to hand pick some battles, because I'm not going to just show the 4 battles where my attack Deoxys gets farmed down in 2 moves, because those are boring. I'm going to select the battles that show the Zap Cannon. So, like, usually the spicier battles, I do select the better ones. So, this one, I did choose not to do that, because it does reinforce just how good this team is, because it still can come back from lost leads, even though I didn't really show too many battles. But I didn't want this video to be too long. And also, this team, I like it. It's triple XL, and the only thing about these battles, like the only thing about this team, is that the battles take a while because everything's so bulky. That's like the only problem. So like I run this team when I have a lot of free time. That's basically it. Now, Steelix, it did get the nerf to Breaking Swipe, and honestly, it completely deserved it. But I'm just back to running Dragon Tail Psychic Fangs Crunch, because I ran Steelix before it was cool. I had a Hundo Steelix that I used for the Mega, but I also used for Ultra League. So I used that one before Steelix even got access to Breaking Swipe, and I thought it was pretty strong back then too. So I still think Steelix is fine. It, of course, still is a very annoying Pokemon to go up against, and Breaking Swipe, you can still run it because it can still get a debuff, but I prefer the consistency of Psychic Fangs over the inconsistency that Breaking Swipe now has. So I'm back to running good old regular before the Breaking Swipe edition Steelix. And then the other Pokemon, Altaria was a no-brainer for me, because Altaria, obviously one of my favorite Pokemon. It's also very strong, because unless it like leads into a Fairy type or an Ice type, it still pretty much has play into most things, and so that's why I like it. It's also just, I've talked about how the bulky Dragon Flying type is not something people are prepared for. And then there's Ludicolo. Ludicolo was the newest addition to the team. It's when I updated it after the Obscune, because Ludicolo, it's able to do a lot of stuff that is necessary. Like, it's able to beat fire types as well, but it's also able to beat Swampert. So I am ABA strong against Swampert now, which is one of the things that I was kind of prioritizing. And also, since it's got its unique water and grass type, it is able to be neutral to fire, so I'm not just ABB weak to fire, because that's not good after the Incinerate buff. So now, Ludicolo, its unique typing's perfect. It also is just one of the Pokemon that has some nice bulk. And that is nice because, especially as a Scald user, like, the addition of Scald really helped Ludicolo. So that was nice. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.